Welcome to Deep Dive Conversations. Today, we're talking all about friendship, and Pastor Doug is joined by one of his best friends, Pastor Reuben Ramsaran. Not only has Reuben been a friend to Doug for over 25 years, but he's also served at our church as a family pastor and in many other roles, ministering to people in all seasons of life. Today, this conversation is personal for Doug and Reuben, but it's a great resource for all of us. The importance of friendship in our life as it mimics our relationship with God. How to be a friend to others, and how to receive friendship for ourselves in every area and walk of life. So we hope today that this conversation serves as a ministry to you and also a great resource. Let's jump in.
So I'm here with my good friend, Reuben. We're going to talk about friendship. I thought of all the experts we could talk about relationships and friendship, I'd invite one of my best friends, my brother, Reuben Ramsaran. It's an honor to have you here to talk about really the 26 years that we've had friendship and life together. So tell me about you, your family, and then how we met.
Yeah, 26 years has flown by, and it's honestly been a gift. I think to find a good friend in today's culture and society is like a gift that you can easily look by until you get to that spot where you're like, oh man, I need it. It's like that thing, like your body works and all of a sudden you realize it doesn't, and now you're praying for a miracle. And often we like to pray for that miracle in friendship as well. And so we met 26 years ago. I've been married to my wife Priya for 27 years. I've been a part of staff here for almost 25 years. Got 6 kids, and we're very, very blessed. When I think back about the last several years, most of like our engagements have been around families. And so whether it be families that are in distress or families that are really thriving, parenting classes or parenting events, or just moments to reach into the family and help, that's really what the Lord has allowed me to do over the past 25 years. It's been a blessing and an honor for me to do it alongside.
We've been on some great adventures together.
We have.
Going to houses with kids that wanted to run away and do all the things, and lots of stories. But it's always been fun doing it together.
Yeah. Every once in a while on Father's Day, I'll get a text from one of those kids.
Yeah.
And it's always a blessing to look back and say, wow, you don't realize it in the moment, but you're making impacts through friendship and through relationship and through the favor of God.
Yeah, so we've been talking about in this podcast on relationships, this simple idea that like it's not good for a person to be alone. That's what we see in Genesis. And that Jesus models this so well because he doesn't just say to his disciples, like, you're my servants, but he says, I call you friends. I invite you into friendship. And so let's talk about how friendship begins, how it develops, how to keep friendships growing deeper and deeper. And I think this is an important conversation because when we talk to all of our other guests on the podcast, we talk about marriage. There's a lot written about marriage and how to have a healthier marriage. There's a lot written about parenting, how to raise your kids. There's a lot written about outreach and reaching out to your neighbors, but there's not a lot written about friendship. How do you become a good friend? How do you maintain that friendship? How do you grow deeper in that friendship? So let's talk a little bit about the first question. Why do we need friends?
I think in so many ways, we obviously, you said it before, we see in Scripture, God says that it's not good for man to be alone, and I think when I felt my need for friendship the most is when I felt the most lonely. It's like in the quietness or the stillness of life, in those moments, you're like, man, how do I process this? How am I supposed to think about it? And so often I think I see my need for friendship in those moments, and when I allow myself to reach out and to be cared for by a friend in those moments is when you realize the power or the influence of what God was talking about. When he says it's not good for man to be alone, it's that word good is probably a loaded word.
Oh yeah.
That you don't realize all the layers, all the textures until you find yourself in that space. I think sadly, we sometimes ignore that and we allow ourselves to suffer in that loneliness, and it drives us to things and behaviors that we can be embarrassed to talk about.
Yeah, so I think just speaking about men for a second, men are wired to achieve and to accomplish. I got to build my business. I got to raise my family. I got to make money. I want to be an influencer. I want to make a difference in the world. And so the idea of I spend time cultivating a friendship is not typically on the top 5 of a guy's thing. And so a guy might find himself in his 30s or 40s, and we talk to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, just this got neglected. And so I have all this outward success, but I have no one to share it with. So like, as a guy, how do you find your way out of that? How do you take a step to move toward friendship?
Yeah, I think for me, I've noticed in all my conversations across the years is you got to discover that need first and foremost. It's like if I could tell you about your need of friends, or we could read a verse about our need for friends, but until we realize that it's actually a spot that's a tangible need for us, we'll probably do very little about it. You know, our drive for success, our drive to achieve, our drive to work can trump all of these spaces of need inside of us. And so I think the biggest piece is reminding us of our desperate need for friendship, of our desperate need for relationship, for a voice to listen, and for wisdom that we need to hear all throughout life, not just in times of need, but in times of success, and every space in between is to make ourselves aware of that need deep in our soul.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. This research study that was done years ago by a guy named 𝘾𝘼𝙇𝘑 about the power of friendship and community to combat mental health issues and addiction. Yeah. And he cited all the studies that all of us heard about. You know, you put a rat in the cage, you put water in one bottle, and then drug-laced water in the other bottle, and the rat will drink the drug-laced water until he dies.
Yeah.
And just talk about the power of addiction. Yeah. And 𝘾𝘼𝙇𝘑 said that experiment is all wrong, because rats are social animals. So put a bunch of rats in the cage, put some play toys and see, and the rats in those environments didn't go to the drug-laced water. They didn't get addicted. They lived in community. And so his sort of like outcome or conclusion from that project was that in healthy community, your tendency toward addiction, toward depression, toward anxiety is reduced because we were social. We were meant to be in community. Yeah. And it sort of gave me like the why of friendship. Like this is what the Bible explains about us. This is what research shows us, but sometimes we don't know. And I think for a lot of people, when they think about, I don't have a really good friend, it's hard to say that, because then you're like, well, I feel like a loser. I feel like no one likes me. So like, how do you break out of that feeling of like, I know I need this. Yeah. I know there are people around, but how do I break through that sense of shame?
Yeah, I think practically speaking, in culture says, well, you deserve friendships, or if you need a friendship, then almost like let it come to you. And I think one of the things I've learned over the years is that can be like your own self-fulfilling lie, so to speak. It's like this thing that will keep you from friendship. And so one of the practical ways that I like to remind myself on a weekly basis is what's happening in my friend's life. How am I pursuing friendship? That's good. How am I looking to invest, not just wait to be invested in, or wait for the phone call? Nobody texted me this week. Nobody called me this week. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, who did I call? Who did I text, and who in my friendship circle am I caring for? And in the midst of reaching out, in the midst of caring for somebody, I'm always cared for in return. And so I want to make it a life motto that I pursued the relationships in my life. Not that I conquered them, but that I made myself available to them. And in so doing, my friends make themselves available to me. And there's this beautiful exchange and a relationship where both are cared for.
Yeah, so let's talk about when we first met, and talk about just the formation of our friendship, and then maybe some of the tests of that friendship, and then some of the ways that our friendship moved forward and passed through some of those struggles. Because I think for people, they're like, okay, well, I have a friend, but maybe we're not as close as we want to be, but we don't know how to get to the next step. Yeah. So talk about the first time we met.
Yeah, I can remember getting together with you. You might have a different story, but I remember.
I want to hear your version.
Okay, I remember coming to your house with Priya, and I can remember sitting down for what was, I thought going to be like an interview for a job.
It was.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it. In the moment, it felt like meeting with friends. You know, I remember, obviously our cultures are very opposite. I learned a little bit about what Americans eat for a dinner, a casserole. And I didn't even know what a casserole was.
German Americans, Mennonite, Midwestern.
I remember thinking to myself, wow, I can't wait till you try some of my food. It's going to be crazy. And I remember bringing a young baby into our house, and you had 2 sons at that point, and they were a little bit older. Just watching the way that you guys parented your sons, and just thinking about and reflecting on how we're parenting our daughter, and watching the way you and Suzanne cared for each other and kind of put together that meal, and just thinking through what that looks like for myself and my wife as well, Priya, and just being like in this space of like, wow, I wonder what this could turn into. There seems to be a lot of like similarities in the midst of the differences, and this could be like a really fun space to grow up, and a really fun space to dive into, trust somebody in your life, because my history of friendships were positive and negative. There were reasons to trust and there were reasons to not trust. And we were in the space of being able to say, we could do this. This could be an amazing piece.
Yeah, so you pointed something out, that friendship itself is a risk.
Yeah.
It's a risk for you to open up your home and invite someone over.
Yeah.
It could get really weird.
Yeah.
It's a risk to try to open up to someone when you've been burnt by other people.
Yeah.
So I remember distinctly that night, and when you guys left, I said to my wife, hey, we're going to be friends with them for the rest of our life. I just knew. There was a connection there. That doesn't happen all the time, but it happened when we met. But I want to talk about risks, because you said, hey, before you came to that dinner, you're in your late 20s at the time?
Yeah, yeah.
So you've had a couple of friendships that have gone well and some that haven't gone well. So talk about how do you get past the thing like, I tried friendship and that person betrayed me or stabbed me in the back. I don't want to try. Like, tell me about that process for you of working through some of the hurts to try again.
Yeah, there were so many things in my life that gave me like a confidence and a stability. Almost a confidence and a stability that made me believe I didn't need friendship. Like I had a good job.
Okay.
And I felt successful in what I could provide for my family. I have a strong relationship with my wife, and that gave me a certain confidence, a level of like, wow, like accomplishment. I have a child, I'm a dad now, and that gave me a sense of accomplishment. I had peripheral friends that made me feel good enough. And so in the midst of some of the disappointments in friendship, you can almost lull yourself into a space where it's like, it's good enough. I'm gonna be just okay. And until you get to that space where it's like, I want to open up about this area of my life. I wonder what he did with this thing in my life. I wonder how he walked through, and that like nagging feeling can drive you to break through that next level and say, hey, what'd you do with this?
Right.
And then you realize you're not crazy or you're not abnormal. You're just like everybody else. And that sort of like ability to trust somebody again, or to take that risk and actually breaking through can help you go to that next level.
Yeah. So you experienced some friendships before that where trust was violated. Where so tell me more about, not the specifics, but just how it felt to go, I tried that.
Yeah.
And it actually created more pain in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's worth it again.
Yeah, I have like a view of life that's more like a rose-colored glasses, glass half full sort of mentality. And so
we share that.
I'll trust most people.
Yeah.
And so in the midst of one of the most significant ones that I'm thinking about right now, when I discovered that this friend had violated my trust, it was like I got robbed, so to speak. That feeling like somebody was in your home, somebody took something from you and it's not coming back. Like you got to deal with the reality of a broken friendship and a broken relationship. And that particular grief took me a couple of years to get through. It's almost as if I would say I'll never let another person back in that space. I'll never let another friend back in that space. You know what? I'm actually good with nobody being close like that again. And that's something that really I had to accept. That's something that I had to process. It was a feeling at that moment until I realized that person didn't represent every person. That person doesn't have to define every single male relationship that I'm going to have in my future. And when you meet good people, you should let that be a signal that drives you towards deeper questions. And I met a good person in that, and I'm glad the Lord allowed that to happen in my life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in life end up in that place where you were and where I was initially, where you're like, you have a lot of what you might call companions. They're friends, but they're not deep friends, close friends, and you're not really going to disclose what you really think or feel. You're not going to talk about your greatest joys, disappointments, fears, hopes, weaknesses, and you think you'll be okay for a while, but then you realize when life happens, Solomon says, a man of many companions comes to ruin. But there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. It's like an invitation. You can live with everyone like this, or you can invite a few people close. Yeah. So, all right. So I've never asked you this question, so we'll see how this goes. So when was the first time that you thought, oh, I'm going to tell Doug something about me that's a weakness or an insecurity or that's going to make me vulnerable? Like how did you decide when to do it? Yeah.
I'm probably maybe a little different in regards to what drives that in me. Typically for me, it's conviction. Okay. It's like you have that conversation with your spouse you have that conversation with a workplace friend, or you have that moment where you're like, that's not right. But I don't know exactly what to do about it. Like you said earlier in our talk, there's not a lot of books written about friendship. There are some, but not tons. And so where do you go for the index on what do you do when this happens? Who do you ask? Do you call a therapist, which you could? Do you call like an older friend that's a Christian longer than you, which you could? But in so many ways, the Lord's placed around us friends that we could lean on in these moments. And that's what it was like for me. There was a moment, a circumstance. I sensed the conviction of God to go deeper. The lie in my head was, well, nobody will understand. And I knew that was the enemy's voice. And so I sent a text. And I was like, hey, man, we need to talk. And I'm like,
that's how you do it. Send a text
and just going deep. And if he responds, I'll do it. And I remember thinking when you called back, like, hey, I'd like to talk today. And that was a marker for me to say, I have to talk about it now. And so that really set the foundation of the stage for me to trust you at a level that was beyond like an acquaintance or a social friend or a workplace friend. It was moving towards like this, like a circle of people, a circle of friendship that would be like an inner ring for me to be able to navigate life beyond what could even be explained, like brothers, right, and not even friends.
So tell me about like, how many friends can a person have? Like, what is the capacity to have, how many close friends can a person have?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I want to say as many as you want, but reality is that you don't have that much time in a given day. The type of friend that I'm talking about, that inner circle for me, it can't go past 3 or 4, because I'm talking about a weekly contact with somebody that is dependent to a certain level on a relationship with you. Like when there's a distance, you sense it, you feel it. When there is like a sense of a lack of responsiveness, you feel it. When there's a sense of like that space that you want to like add a lie to it, you know there's a problem. And so for me, the reason why it's just 3 or 4 is because of the quality of friendship. Not just because I don't want more friends or that maybe I could do it to a certain level, but if I want to have a quality friend, if I want to be called a quality friend, then I need to make the type of weekly investment, a responsive sort of relationship, a person who truly listens and is not just double tasking. Right. I'm listening to my friend, but I'm also scrolling on the internet or on social media. I'm actually listening and caring. When you're going through a hard time, I'm there with you, not just sending you a text or sending you a gift card, but I'm going to send you time where we can spend together.
Okay, so let's talk about that, like just the intentional process of spending time. So you take a risk, you break through if I disclose this, can I trust this person? Can we connect? Is it going to be mutual? Are we going to share life together? Like you go through that process. So let's say the friendship is going. How do you prioritize it? Like do you schedule things on a calendar? Like how do you make sure that we're connecting on a weekly basis with those 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people?
Yeah, my personality, if I don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. I know that sounds like kind of cringy or maybe too stuffy, but if I don't put something somewhere, it's just never going to happen. Some people might say it's okay, organically I connect with this person, that's great. But just my pace of life and my season of life, if I don't put it down somewhere, it's not going to happen. And so a lot of times we find a common hobby, and that's what's worked for us over the years is we've got this thing that we like to do together. And that thing will drive a weekly connection where we're able to touch base on.
We're supposed to be working out right now.
Actually, we are.
And
one of the friends is actually
working out without us.
Yes, but the point is that place is like a hub where if we do lose touch or if something does happen, we know we're going to meet there. We know that we're going to have a space to talk there. And if we're not, we're going to talk about why we missed, so that next week it's more of a whole space. And more broadly speaking, putting on the calendar spaces to vacation together or spaces to get away for the weekend together. One of my most favorite times of the year is thinking about our guys retreat, where we're going to get a couple of guys together and we're going to hang out for a couple of days around a table, chatting around a lake or around some activity that drives healthy, whole conversations where we can expose the parts of our life that need to be talked about, as well as laugh uncontrollably together and just enjoy the seasons that we're in.
Yeah, that's good. When I think about scheduling and calendaring, sometimes I'll hear people talk about their desire to have friendships, but the friendship, like where it is on their top 5, it doesn't hit their top 5. And so all the decisions they make sort of crowd it out. So it's like, I don't have time for that level of investment for a real friend, but I feel lonely and I don't know why. And I've even talked to people who they'll move for cheaper housing in North Carolina or a better job in California, but they almost never regard like, well, what friends will I leave behind? And then they move and they're like, I'm making more money, but I'm not with the people I really want to be with, and I feel lonely. I don't know why I made that decision. So prioritizing friendship as one of the top 5 or one of the top 3 can change the way you live your life. You might make less money, but you're enjoying the life that you have with people, and you're enjoying the longevity of a relationship with people. So my kids call you Uncle Reuben. Your kids call me Uncle Doug because in South Florida, where lots of people don't have intact families, you sort of create the type of vibe where there's 3 or 4 of our families that everyone's uncle and aunt and everyone's cousins, and none of them look alike. And it's an intentional desire to go, we want to do life together with this person. So talk about what does it mean to have like a vision of lifelong friendship with someone?
That's good. Let me address or attack that in a certain way. So I got this picture in my mind of like the things that I would cancel a conversation with you over, and how many of those things that I would cancel for that conversation are going to be there for me in the times where I would need support or care or friendship. So often we have it like kind of prioritized in the wrong way, where we should be thinking in regards to longevity that I want to build or I want to invest in the things that are going to help support me so that I can be the best husband, so that I can be the best employee, so that I can be the best whatever it is that you are. And when you think like that, you begin to place effort, time, and stability and be a priority around those particular things, like our times together. Like when we have those things on the calendar, they are the things I look forward to in that particular week. My first thought is when I look at my week is I'm going to be able to talk to that friend, where I'm going to have a life-giving, soul-refreshing conversation with another brother in Christ, and that's the way that I begin to plan towards the long term. I want to build here so that I can be the healthy man that I need to be to all these other places and stations in my life.
All right, so we have to take a risk if we want to grow in friendship, for sure. We have to prioritize and the time and the intentionality to go, we're going to meet together, we're going to create these moments, opening your home together, meeting on a regular basis, going on adventures together, all that kind of stuff. So bring people into the conversations that we have, kind of like, what do they sound like? Is it encouragement? Is it challenge? What's happening in all these conversations?
I think a good friend, an attribute of a good friend, is knowing how to be a good question asker.
You're good at that.
And so are you. And often, the things that prompt the best questions are when we're just talking and hanging out. It could be around a great chess game where I have the edge. And then all of a sudden,
when was that?
all of a sudden you take that edge back and it's like, in that moment of frustration, or maybe it's a football game outside with the kids or a pickleball game outside with the kids where afterwards, where your inhibitions are a bit like down, and you're able to say, hey, I want to go to that next level. I want to have that conversation with you. And so I don't know, like I believe in the midst of a friend saying, hey, can I ask you a question about what you just said? Hey, I watched your engagement with your son when we were playing that game. I want to tell me more about that. And those questions kick open the door for the most authentic, self-aware moments that I've ever had in my life. And in both ways, I can recall distinct moments where I was able to ask you the same question, and I could see you doing that thing that you do when you're thinking. It used to be when you had hair, you could twirl it back here, or you'd throw your pen around.
I still do it in memory.
where I could tell you're thinking, or you've made me think in a way that allows me to be self-aware in the space that I was blind. And those are the moments that I'll cherish because it changes me.
Yeah, I mean, I think of our friendship, I think of that proverb that says, there's a lot of people who will throw kisses at you, but you can trust the wounds of your brother or the wounds of your friend.
Yeah.
And there have been times where you've said to me, hey, you look off.
Yeah.
Or you look like you're running too hard.
Yeah.
Or you need to pause, and
Yeah.
you just were very direct. Or times I've been direct to you, or times where we've confessed sin or weakness or struggle or pointed it out in the other person.
Yeah.
So how do you get to the point where you have those type of conversations?
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
And you don't get defensive where you're like,
Yeah.
you don't know me.
Yeah. We all have different personalities. And so like I'm thinking about my personality type and yours, and how for me it would take me much longer to work towards saying something that I think you need to hear. And you probably get there faster because of your personality type. And so for me, it's like, hey, let me think this through. Often I'll say things, but they don't come out edited enough. And so I could create a person, like something in their heart that says, hey, that's actually not what's happening. And so I'll create the defense mechanism. And so for me, I've got to think about, what am I trying to say? Like, how should I say that to this? How do they need to hear it? How do I make sure that it's received to the person that needs to hear this? And so think through, like before you say anything, think about what you're trying to say. You don't want to say something sloppily and create a wall in an individual. And the other piece is like just learning to step into it. When you have somebody's trust, when you've had this many years of friendship, you should be able to. It's almost like you'd never want to let your friend go into a circumstance blind. Why would you do that to them? That's like the most unloving thing that you could ever do. Speak up, say something, even if it comes out messy. At least they know they have a friend that's looking out for their enrichment.
Yeah, my wife would often say to you, like, you don't need to say that to Reuben. I'm like, if I don't, who will?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that conversation, like, even after I teach or after I get up and talk, you're like, hey, that wasn't your best moment.
Yeah.
And because we have a long-term trust, I don't get defensive. I know you're for me. I know you want me to be better, and you see things I don't see.
Yeah.
And so it's that ease of both encouragement and the ease of, hey, that looked a little off, or hey, that wasn't your best moment, or hey, if you did it this way, it could be so much better.
Yeah.
And I've never felt like, why is he criticizing me so much?
Yeah.
Because of that level of trust. And that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of. All right, so I'm gonna ask you a question I've never asked you before either.
Okay.
So in the 26 years of friendship, have there ever been any like low points where you're like, oh, this is a hard season for us?
Yeah.
And how did you work through that, or how did the friendship survive those seasons? Because we worked together.
Yeah.
And for most of your life, I've been your boss, which that's a whole nother dynamic.
Yeah.
So there's some awkward moments in that.
Yeah. In the textures or the chapters of the story of our friendship, there's definitely been times, and it's typically around something that we have to do, not something that we are. And I think that's a good distinction to note, because when in the choosing of friends, typically you're choosing them from who they are. It's like a bit of their testimony, a bit of their character. And I think we won each other's trust early on based upon a bit of our story, our testimony, our character, our relationship to God. And that should be something that helps you to trust in the midst of those dark scenes or more difficult scenes. I remember a friend of mine taking me down on a buddy valve and on a scuba trip, and I didn't have a scuba license at the time. And when he took me down, there was a certain murkiness that you have to get past to get to the bottom of the ocean. And in those moments, like I kind of see the same picture in friendship. In the midst of the murkiness, the buddy valves of life should take you down, and that character, that integrity should help you to trust those murky times. I would say this is that in the moments where I felt the most frustrated, I pushed for a conversation. Like, hey, can we talk about this? I want to understand. Can you remind me? Because there are times where in the midst of tense moments, Doug, I'll forget. Like maybe I choose to hear what I want to hear, or I choose to listen to what seems the most appetizing to listen to, but you're missing parts of the story. And so for me, one of my tendencies is to say, hey, can we talk about this one more time? Remind me, why do we choose that way? Help me understand, because I'm wrestling with this. And in those moments, you've helped me to see through the murkiness down to the beautiful ocean floor, where there's life beyond the frustration, life beyond the confusion, where there's care and love and affection beyond a decision that needed to be made. Decisions in ministry or outside of ministry, decisions in business don't always reflect on friendship. Friendship will supersede so much of what we do today. I mean, you and I have both laughed and joked about growing old and rocking on, Cracker Barrel, rocking
You're
chairs.
gonna be pushing me around in my wheelchair.
You might push me first. Who knows?
I might.
But we've joked about that because this is great. But I think getting to be your friend is far greater than some of the things that we get to do.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so we talk about like moments that we get together, we celebrate. We go to a guys retreat with a few lifelong friends. These are 20, 30-year friendships. We celebrate moments, weddings, the birth of kids, all the things. But there are also dark moments. I think about like our group of friends. There's 4 or 5 of us, and getting together, after the death of a child, getting together after a son goes to jail, getting together after betrayals and the loss of a job or an injury, and the failing of a test, the missing out of an opportunity. And to me, those are like some of the best moments of friendship. Like, let's get together, let's go out to dinner. Instead of celebrating, we're gonna weep together.
Yeah.
And we're gonna just come together around a meal and say, in the good times and the bad times, this is why friendship is so important. Like, I know, and it's sort of like this corny saying, but I think it's so true that friendship multiplies our joy and divides our sorrow. Yeah. And when I first heard that, like, that's so corny. It's so true. Yeah. That your joy is so much greater when you celebrate with friends, and your sorrow is so much diffused throughout the group when you mourn together. Yeah. And even storytell about the sad parts. Yeah. Yeah. So talk about that.
Those are precious times. I mean, I can recall in my mind distinctly moments where we showed up at each other's houses in the darkest of moments. And the shocking thing for me, because I'm a bit of a talker, is that there was so much said in the silence. Before the questions even asked, it was like we're just kind of sitting together. And there's for me like awkward moments of silence where it's just we're just taking the moment in, like, wow, we actually made it. We're all sitting here, and then the conversation begins. And as I have the honor of sitting in that circle, somebody kind of kicking the first question out to be able to get that one person open, to be able to talk about this very raw reality that they're walking through, has been like a distinct honor for me. In those moments where somebody's able to open up, it's like such a privilege to walk through somebody's pain. And I think showing up is just half the battle. If you can remember to show up in your friend's pain, my goodness, you can change their reality and change their today just because you're present. It could be just playing some great music together. It could be trying to have a conversation together, or just literally bringing a meal or writing a card that completely changes the reality of their day.
Right, so what if you have a friend who's like, oh no, I'm fine, I'm good. Like they go through a difficult event, but like, I'm good, I don't need food, I'm good. Yeah. Do you just not show up? Like, what do you do there?
I think much like what you mentioned with Susanna, it's like, if you don't, then who will? And I think that
So you show up and you said, I know you told no one to come over, but I'm here anyway because I'm your friend. So open the door.
Yeah, I've watched this group. Yeah, literally, I've watched this group just leave hot food on the doorstep. Yeah. Not even knock on the door. It's just like a certain fingerprint.
Yeah, I think everyone in our group is basically like, I'm good. You don't need to show up. Yeah, and we show up anyway.
There's a couple of you guys in that group. I'm a little different. I can admit, like, man, I have some needs, But the reality is I've watched you guys show up for each other, and in so doing, I've allowed that same thing to happen in my life, like receive the meal, receive the invite. And I think I'm always shocked at the response. Sometimes it's just leaving the meal there. Sometimes it evolves into a conversation that is literally life-changing, where I'm cared for by the person who needs the care, or vice versa. There's a beautiful sharing in the midst of pain that through good friendship it happens. And so you show up. Yeah, you make an effort, and maybe it's not always banging your way through the door, but it could be from the simple coffee that you bring, or
you get past the first resistance of I don't need help, and you're showing up says you actually do need help, and I love you enough to show up, and even if I stay for 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So, I want to switch topics for a second. So you were raised in a sort of German. No, I'm the German. In a Jamaican sort of Indian culture. Yeah. I was raised in more of a German kind of Midwestern culture. Yeah. These cultures are very different. So what's the value of having friends that are not like you? Yeah. So you've got a lot of friends, and I've got a lot of friends that just aren't like us. Yeah. They go to different churches. They come from different cultural backgrounds. They come from completely different experiences to see the world.
Yeah.
What's the value in having friends that aren't like you?
Yeah. I think having friends that aren't like you helps you to see the world from all the angles. You know, I have my certain lenses I see the world through. You have yours. And I really think our friendship circle almost plays the opposites. We have guys from all these different angles that see the world, and when you hear from them, when you watch them, when you kind of follow their life, you're able to see the world in a balanced perspective. Because if we're to be honest, like I'm going to ask somebody a question from a person who I want to hear that certain answer from. It's like I can choose the friend I want to ask the question to, or I can allow the group to answer. When you allow the group to answer, you just get a balanced, holistic sort of view instead of just what you maybe want to hear in that particular moment. And so there's a high value in choosing friends that are different from you. I think it resembles the gospel. I think there's a beautiful gospel imprint on you pursuing people that are different from you and going deep with individuals like that.
Yeah, you sort of see that in the way that Jesus picked the disciples.
Yeah.
What a different group of people, and putting them together forced them to have these type of conversations.
Absolutely.
So they could grow. So as a parent,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things that you want for your kids is that your kids develop healthy friendships and healthy relationships. So how do you teach your kids how to pick the right friends or how to have or maintain good friendships?
Yeah, the research shows that our kids are probably at the greatest risk. At least kids in my kids' age range. I have young adults in my home and teenagers and a little 8-year-old. But there's a friendship deficit amongst kids in that age, research shows us. And so when you look at that and consider that there's not a lot of material out there to help teach them, they're really relying upon us, their school systems, culture around us. And so I was thinking about this beautiful phrase that we hear Paul share all throughout the epistles, where he says, like, follow me or watch my life. Follow me as I follow Christ. Mm-hmm. There should be a certain mentoring or a certain image making that happens through the way that we live out our friendships. And that sort of mentoring helps them to see how do they develop friendships? How do they mirror the same thing that they see their dad do? And so every time I come back from like a guys' night, or every time I come back from a group date, I love telling stories to my kids. Hey, this is what we did tonight. Dad, you did that? Oh my goodness. Here's what we talked about tonight. And not because I want to brag or boast, but because I want to show them what it means to go deep with a group of friends for 20 plus years. I want them to see our life as an adventure so that they live out an adventure. I've got 2 sons, a son who's married and a son who's about to be married. And I'm grateful because I see them doing their part to establish friendship circles like they see in their dad's life. And there has got to be a way that they see it and hear it from us. If it's just all talk, like, hey, you got to have friends, you got to have friends. Well, Dad, what about your life? Mm-hmm. We've got to practice what we preach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good because a lot of times I'll push my sons toward you. Hey, go talk to Uncle Reuben, and you'll push your sons toward me. Hey, go talk to Uncle Doug. So there's something really cool about long-term friendship in family over time. That's why I love the idea of what is your vision of friendship for your life. That it will surpass your your working years. It'll surpass, sometimes even geography. We've had a good friend who's been here and moved away and came back, and the whole time we stayed connected. And so there's something powerful about that.
Absolutely.
So any other thoughts you have for people who are like, how do I find friends? How do I keep friends? How do we work through friendship? Anything else that's on your mind or heart about friendship?
Yeah, a couple things. The first one is in today's society, we're always listening to what to invest in, like where's the best investment strategy, and I would say invest in friendship. When I think about where I want to put my resources, how much resource am I putting behind the friends that I call myself friends with? And so I'm often looking for spaces in my life to invest time, talent, treasure into the people that I'm the closest with so that I can see them built up and invest in your friends. I would also say, like, we're so quick to cancel people in culture. And so if a friend says one bad thing, it's easy to say, oh man, forget about him. Like I don't trust him anymore. And go the long haul with your friends. Don't think about your friendships as like a sprint. Think about friendships as a marathon, and look for spaces to extend grace where your human friends are going to fail you, and you can repair and watch them grow throughout the course of a lifetime.
Let me interject. I think, in family, you don't have a choice. They're your family. You can't just like
Yeah.
cancel your family. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, but it's harder to. And even in marriage, there's a level of covenant and commitment that keeps you through the hard times. But friends are much more easy to discard.
Yeah.
And so often I'll watch people discard friendships where they don't meet expectation, or hey, they talk too much and I don't talk enough, or I share but they don't share, they don't reciprocate. And so it's sort of like, let me just move on.
Yeah.
And when you do that over time, you end up having your latest friendship is like a year old.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most telling signs of if you're doing this is just answering the question, how long is your longest friendship?
Yeah.
And do you still talk to that person, engage with that person? That's a sign of how you're processing. Am I just canceling people and moving on, looking for the perfect friend? Or is there something in me I'm not processing as I just go from person to person to person?
Yeah.
So
There's something about talking to like an old friend or a friend that you've had for a long time that's very telling about yourself, and just listening, like sitting and having a conversation. We were studying as a family Psalm 68 this week and just reflecting on family devotions. And in the middle of that chapter, it says that God places the lonely in families. And I was thinking with my kids about like the antidote to loneliness is family, and how often we take the wrong antidotes and apply it to loneliness, and how much it can create like a deep lostness in us when we don't apply what God shows us to apply there. And I know we talked about this in the beginning, but just ruminating on that last thought you had, like you use the antidote that God has given us. It's family. And it's not just talking about biological, it's the whole picture, the extended family, the non-biological family. It's God's antidote to the problem that we all are faced with. And friendship can be such a rich resource from the hand of God.
yeah, it's the idea to be what every human being needs is to be fully loved and fully known.
Yeah.
And if you're fully loved,
Yeah.
but you're not fully known, you feel hidden or isolated.
Yeah.
And if you're known and not loved, you feel rejected.
Yeah.
But to have both of those things, like I am fully loved, this person knows everything about me and they love me anyway, is the deepest need of the human soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you say to people who say, well, God's the only person I need.
Yeah.
He's the only person I trust. My relationship with him, I can't trust anybody else. How do you respond to that?
Oh gosh, I mean, like I think about how many secrets or how many moments that person has had their trust violated, because that doesn't come from just anywhere. It comes from a very broken, hurt person. And if there's one thing, if somebody's watching today and we're thinking like, what would one person need to hear, is that you can trust again. Like not every leader will be like that leader or that friend or that person that violated your trust. You can try again. The only person it's hurting by you not trying is you.
Yeah, no, I think that's so right. I think there's a tendency when we get hurt to over spiritualize our relationship with God, and even God doesn't say, "Hey, it's just me." In the same way, we have a God-shaped hole inside of us. We have a need for friends. We have a friend-shaped hole in us where we are created to be connected to God and other people.
Yeah.
And I think those two things are spiritually connected to each other.
Yeah.
So that our human friendships are often a reflection of our friendship with God.
Yeah.
And those two things serve as a great mirror.
Yeah.
And so it's just something I think about.
Yeah. I often find myself thinking about that as an output in my life. It's like from that place of allowing friendships to meet this need that God's created in us, we find ourselves filled with passion. Because it's when you discover who you are and that there's people around that trust and that it can help hold you up, you can go towards and go after the things that God has in front of you. But when there's secrets, and I just think about like the man who's watching us have this conversation that still has secrets in their life, things that nobody else knows, it could create such an insecurity. And when you are riddled with insecurities, you don't lead well. You're not going to love well. You're not going to relate and do friendship well. And so to find a person where you can take those secrets and say, hey, I went through this. Did you ever go through this? Like how did you handle this part of your life? You're gonna realize that your secrets are actually something that somebody else went through, and you could find wisdom and acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, as leaders in ministry, as pastors, probably every week, someone's life that we know blows up.
Yeah.
Because of a secret.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, was there anyone in their life that they invited in, because every secret makes you vulnerable. Every time I can't tell someone this, you just go deeper into yourself and you become more and more and more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so, I would encourage all of our listeners to think about, how do I take that next step?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts?
Yeah, any secret or blind spots are like double weaknesses. It's one thing to have a weakness, but to have a double weakness, and so pray, like put it before the Lord. Like I remember thinking one day, God, would you take this friendship, this relationship with Doug, and would you do with it what you want? Early on. And I'm grateful, because I believe the Lord gave us an opportunity to be friends. I believe he put it before us, and it's been such a great ride. So don't forget to pray and ask the Lord to open the right doors, and then go for it and watch him bless you.
That's great. Thanks for having the conversation.
Yeah.
Grateful for you, my brother.
Love you, bro.
Thanks so much for tuning into this conversation about friendship. Before you go, be sure to check out the show notes, because we have more resources available for you on this topic, as well as a teaching from our weekend series all about Jesus and relationships. And we're going to be having more conversations about different relationships in our lives. So don't miss out. Stay tuned.